Somebody was interested in, particularly in the development of fascism and raising the Spanish Civil War. Of course, that was, the people responded because they realized that that was the practicing ground for the fascist army of Germany. So because Germany took part in that war, they sent their troops and into Spain. So in fact, people were aware in a way what was coming up, what was happening, and they realized that, you know, that we were going to have a terrible war that would involve us.
That was the time when there was a League Against War and Fascism. Mm-hmm. And it did also bring together people from what was Canadian, from the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation, which was the CCF of that time. And they and the communists and a lot of people in between did cooperate with each other in advancing the cause of Spain. And I can remember a meeting where, in 1937, where the speakers, one was H.H. Hargreaves, who was on the provincial executive of the CCF, and Tom McEwen, who was a communist. They say that there were 10,000 turned out to greet the people returning from Spain.
Yeah, and then we had Dr. Bethune, who was in Spain at the time, and when he came to Canada to collect money, thousands of people went to his meeting and they gave him money for the Spanish War. It seems to me far worse now in terms of threatening the health of the world than it was then. And yet people seem to not be aware. So,
I grew up in the 30s too, unfortunately, which puts me way up there. But I think it's obvious that one of the things that was going for people in those days was the personal contact. Now we've got this tremendous personal way of contacting people. There's also a tremendous amount of propaganda that goes along with it. You know, I mean, we can use emails and Googles and whatever, and you know, it's a wonderful way of contacting people, but we're getting a little more removed, I think. Mm-hmm. And there's just a huge competition for people's time.
Roger's question about the Soviet Union, how important that was as an image or a goal, is that something you
tremendously important?
It was a tremendous. There were many. Yes, at that time, there was a lot. Well, certainly the communists did look to the Soviet, but a lot of ordinary people in Canada were also looking to the Soviet Union. It was no small thing that they had managed to achieve anything, considering the pressures they had been under, but they actually were improving living conditions and were improving educational opportunity, and were improving the distribution of goods. So, I mean, there were tremendous problems in the country, and certainly, as you say, it could take a lot more discussion. But there was a very large section of progressive people and ordinary people who were looking. That's one of the reasons that the government in this period, too, took action to suppress the communists.
I want to not ignore your question about the conflicts, because it was in the 1930s that you had the Communist Party far on the left, the people fighting back, and then, of course, the CCF developed. So that's a whole story in itself, and an interesting part, because there were differences, you see, and it was the difference in the way that you struggle. And the people who formed the NDP, or the CCF then, really believed that in more of change, improving the system. You know, that they had more faith in being able to change the system so it was more was fairer, and then communists were revolutionaries basically, and felt that you had to overthrow the capitalist system in order to build a more fairer society. you know, and talking about activism today, if you look at the post-war period and the propaganda against communists, I mean, I could tell you that part of the history I could tell you about, but I'm not going to now. But the fact is that they have really changed people's minds. I have young people, high school kids, saying, "Oh, he's a dirty communist." It's incredible how it has infiltrated and carried on right to today to the younger generation. It was such a powerful propaganda campaign against communists and peace people. That period, if you were a peace worker, you'd lose your job.
Yes.
You see, people don't. That's an error that we need to look at. Because it's really one of the reasons why we see a lot of people won't get involved at all. So that's an interesting period.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. Yeah. And just to add to that it's a bad situation that these views are taken, because a communist believed that the world would be a better place if there were a socialist society. Nonetheless, they believe firmly in activity to try to improve things in the present in any kind of direction they can. So they're in favor of action on issues that need action. And it's true that just through a tremendous propaganda that it still influences the attitudes of people in getting together in bigger causes and all working together. And I'm very much hopeful that conferences like this one today will dispel that attitude and see that all the people who are interested in the issues and interested in doing things about it, whatever they may think in the long run and what will happen 25, 30 years from now, that they will feel driven to unite in activity now to improve conditions.
This program was brought to you by Pacific.ca. Pacific.ca is the sister organization to NowPolling.ca. NowPolling.ca is a non-profit, non-partisan society that is helping to fight back the apathy in our society. You can help by registering your vote by going to NowPolling.ca. Remember, participation is the essence of direct democracy.
Workers of the world awaken, break your chains, demand your rights. All the wealth you make is taken by exploiting parasites. Shall you kneel in deep submission from the cradle to the grave? Is the height of your ambition to be good and willing slaves? Arise, ye prisoners of starvation, work for your own emancipation. Arise, ye slaves of every nation, in one union grand. Our children are for bread crying, and millions are from hunger dying. The end, the means is justified.